What's up guys, this is Massey. Welcome to another video. In this video I want to show you how to evaluate limits by eliminating zero denominators. This method is also called dividing out technique, and we can use it in calculus for evaluating limits. I have many examples here. I start from the first one. It says limit of x squared plus x minus 2 over x squared minus x when x approaches 1. So as you know, when you sub it here, it's going to be 1 plus 1 minus 2. That's going to be 0 over 1 minus 1 is going to be 0 and 0. So what we need to do, basically, we need to factor both of them, numerator and denominator, which is going to be product to negative 2 and add 2 plus 1. So that's going to be x plus 2 times x minus 1. And the denominator, when you factor that, is going to be x times x minus 1. And then basically you can cancel x minus 1 from numerator and also denominator. And then it will be limit of x plus 2 over x when x approaches 1. So it's going to be 1 plus 2 over 1. So that's going to be the answer. Next one again is a rational function. We have x cubed plus 1 divided by x plus 1 when x approaches negative 1. When you evaluate it, it's going to be negative 1 to the power of 3 plus 1 over negative 1 plus 1. That's going to be negative 1 plus 1 over negative 1 plus 1, 0 over 0. So again, we need to factor them and use dividing out technique. So I'm going to factor x cubed plus 1. So limit of x cubed divided by x cubed plus 1 is going to be x plus 1 times x squared minus x plus 1 over x plus 1 when x approaches negative 1. So basically these two cancel out. Is going to be limit of x squared minus x plus 1 when x approaches negative 1. Then you sub it there. Negative 1 squared is 1 minus x, which is going to be 1 plus 1 plus 1 is going to be 3. Next one is limit of x squared minus 9 over x minus 3 when x approaches 3. So that's going to be 3 squared minus 9 over 3 minus 3. It's going to be 0 over 0. Again, we need to eliminate the zeros. So what we can do here, we have difference of squares, so we can factor that. X squared minus 9 is the same as x squared minus 3 squared. So I'm going to write it as x minus 3 times x plus 3 divided by x minus 3 when x approaches 3. So now we have x minus 3 and x minus 3 from numerator and denominator. We can cancel them, and that's going to reduce to limit of x plus 3 when x approaches 3. So 3 plus 3 is going to be 6. Next one, limit of x squared plus 3x over x when x approaches 0. Again, when you sub it there, it's going to be 0 over 0. It means that we need to basically factor it and use dividing out technique. I factor the numerator, factor x plus 3 over x when x approaches 0. These two cancel out. Is going to be limit of x plus 3 when x approaches 0. That's going to be equal to 3. Next example. Limit of x squared plus x minus 6 over x minus 2 when x approaches 2. Again, when you sub it there, it's going to be 2 squared plus 2 minus 6 over 2 minus 2. That's going to be 4 plus 2, 6 minus 6 over 0, which is going to be 0 over 0. Then I factor that. That's going to be x minus 2 times x plus 3 over x minus 2 when x approaches 2. You reduce it basically by cancelling x minus 2 and x minus 2 from numerator and denominator. So we have limit of x plus 3 when x approaches 2. So when you evaluate it, it's going to be 2 plus 3, which is going to be equal to 5. Next one is limit of 50 minus 2x squared over x minus 5 when x approaches 5 is going to be 50 minus 2 times 5 squared over 5 minus 5. 5 squared is 25 times 2, 50. 50 minus 50 is 0. 5 minus 5 is going to be 0. So we need to factor it. I can factor 2 there. And then we're going to end up having 25 minus x squared, which will be 5 minus x, 5 plus x over x minus 5 when x approaches 5. So now, as you see here, we have x minus 5 and here we have 5 minus x. 5 minus x divided by x minus 5 is going to be negative 1. So instead of these two terms, I can write negative 1. Times 2 is going to be negative 2. So it's going to be limit of negative 2 times 5 plus x when x approaches 5. That's going to be negative 20. Next one is going to be x squared minus 3x minus 4 over x minus 4 when x approaches 4. So that's going to be limit 16 minus 3 times, that's going to be 12 minus 4. 4 minus 4 is going to be 0 over 0. Now you factor that, is going to be x minus 4 times x plus 1 over x minus 4 when x approaches 4. These two again cancel out, is going to be x plus 1 when x approaches 4. 4 plus 1 is going to be 5. Now this one is x to the power of 4 minus 3x squared over x squared when x approaches 0. So again, when you sub it there, we're going to deal with 0 over 0. So we need to use the technique in order to get rid of these zeros. So I'm going to factor numerator and denominator. Basically, factor the numerator. We will take out x squared. X to the power of 4 divided by x squared is going to be x squared. Negative 3x squared divided by x squared is going to be negative 3 over x squared. X squared and x squared cancel out, is going to be limit of x squared minus 3 when x approaches 0. So it's going to be negative 3. Next one. It's getting harder and harder. Limits of m squared minus 9m plus 14 over m minus 7 when m approaches 7. So when you sub it there, it's going to be 49 minus 63 plus 14 over 7 minus 7. That's going to make it as 0 over 0. Then you factor that. That's going to be m minus 2 times m minus 7 over m minus 7 when m approaches 7. M minus 7 and m minus 7 cancel out, and that's going to be limit of m minus 2 when m approaches 7. 7 minus 2 is going to be 5. Next one is m squared minus 9m plus 14 over m minus 2 when m approaches 2. It's going to be 2 squared minus 9 to 14 over 2 minus 2. 4 minus 18 plus 14 over 0 is going to be 0 over 0. So we need to use the dividing technique. That's going to make it as m minus 2, m minus 7, like the previous example in the numerator. M minus 2 when m approaches 2. These two cancel out, is going to be limit of x minus 7 when x approaches 2 is going to be 2 minus 7, which is negative 5. Limit of y squared minus 7y plus 12 divided by y minus 4. You sub it there, is going to be 4 squared minus 7 times 4 plus 12 divided by 4 minus 4. 16 minus 28 plus 12 over 0. 0 over 0. Then you factor that, is going to be limit y minus 4, y minus 3, y minus 4, y approaches 4. These two cancel out, is going to be limit of y minus 3 when y approaches 4. 4 minus 3 is going to be equal to 1. Next one is limit of x squared plus 23x plus 42 over x plus 21 when x approaches negative 21. That's going to make it negative 21 squared plus 21 plus 42 over negative 21 plus 21. It's going to be 0 over 0 again. Now you need to factor it. When you factor that, it's going to be product 42 at sum is going to be 23. So it's going to be x plus 21 times x plus 2 over x plus 21 when x approaches negative 21. These two cancel out. Limit x plus 2 when x approaches negative 21 is going to be negative 19. Okay, next example is going to be 49x squared minus 100 over 7x minus 10 when x approaches 10 over 7. That's going to be 49 10 over 7 squared minus 100 over 7 times 10 over 7 minus 10 is going to be 0 over 0. Then when you factor that, it's going to be 7x minus 10, 7x plus 10 over 7x minus 10 when x approaches 10 over 7. These two cancel out. It's going to be limit of 7x plus 10 when x approaches 10 over 7. When you sub it there, it's going to make it as 20. Next one is limit of 4x squared minus 9 over 2x minus 3 when x approaches 3 over 2. When you sub it there, it's going to be 4, 3 over 2 squared minus 9 over 2 times 3 over 2 minus 3 is going to be 4 times 9 over 4 minus 9 over 3 minus 3. That's going to be 0 over 0, so we need to factor that. It's going to be limit of 2x minus 3 times 2x plus 3 over 2x minus 3 when x approaches 3 over 2. These two cancel out. It's going to be limit of 2x plus 3 when x approaches 3 over 2. When you sub it there, 2 times 3 over 2 plus 3 is going to make it 6. Next one, limit of square root of 6 times x squared minus 9 over x plus 3 when x approaches negative 3. So basically here, when you evaluate it, it's going to be negative 6 9 minus 9 over negative 3 plus 3 is going to make it square root of 0 over 0. So we need to factor that. It's going to be limit of negative 6x minus 3 times x plus 3 over x plus 3. These two cancel out. It's going to be limit of square root of negative 6x minus 3 when x approaches negative 3. That's going to be negative 3, negative 3, negative 6. Negative 6 times negative 6 is going to be 36, and square root of 36 is going to be positive 6 or negative 6. I just leave it as positive 6. Next one is limit of x cubed minus 1 over x squared minus 1 when x approaches 1. This one is going to be 1 minus 1 over 1 minus 1, 0 over 0. We need to factor that. It's going to be limit of, when you factor x cubed minus 1, you can write it as x minus 1 times x squared plus x plus 1. X squared minus 1, you can write it as x minus 1 times x plus 1 when x approaches 1. These two cancel out. It's going to be limit of x squared plus x plus 1 over x plus 1 when x approaches 1. 1 plus 1 plus 1 over 1 plus 1 is going to be 3 over 2. That's going to be the final answer. Next one is limit of root x plus 1 over x minus 1 when x approaches 1. So that's going to be, basically that's root x minus 1. So that's going to be 0 over 0, which means that you need to factor that. It's going to be limit of square root of x minus 1 root x minus 1 times root x plus 1. These two cancel out. When x is going to 1, it's going to end up having 1 over square root of x plus 1 when x approaches 1. The answer is going to be 1 over 2. Next one is limit of 3x squared minus 75 over x minus 5 when x approaches to 5. That's going to be 5 squared minus 75 over 5 minus 5 is going to be 0 over 0. You can factor 3. It's going to be x squared minus 25, which is x minus 5 times x plus 5 over x minus 5 when x approaches 5. These two cancel out. It's going to be 3 times x plus 5. It's going to be 3 times, the limit is x going to 5 is going to be 3 times 5 plus 5 is going to be 10. That's going to make it as third. Next one is limit of x squared minus x minus 2 over x squared minus 3x minus 4 when x approaches negative 1. That will be negative 1 squared minus negative 1 minus 2. Negative 1 squared minus 3 times negative 1 minus 4. It's going to be 1 plus 1 minus 2 over 1 plus 3 minus 4 is going to be 0 over 0. So you factor that is going to be x minus 2 times x plus 1, x minus 4 times x plus 1 when x approaches negative 1. These two cancel out. It's going to be negative 3 over negative 5, which is going to be 3 over 5. This example is limit of x squared minus 6x minus 16 over x squared plus 14x plus 24. That will sub it there is going to be negative 2 squared minus 6 times negative 2 minus 16 over negative 2 squared minus plus 14 times negative 2, 24. That will be 0 over 0. Limit of x minus 8 times x plus 2 over x plus 12 times x plus 2, x approaches negative 2. These two cancel out. You sub it there is going to be negative 10 over positive 10, which is going to be negative 1, and that's the final answer. This one is limit of x squared plus 4x minus 5 over x squared minus 13x plus 12 when x approaches 1. When you sub it there will be 0 over 0. Then you need to factor that. It's going to be x plus 5 over x minus 1. Here you have x minus 12 times x minus 1 when x is approaching 1. These two cancel out. It's going to be limit of x plus 5 over x minus 12 when x approaches 1. 6, negative 11. So it's going to be negative 6 over 11. Next one is limit of 3x squared plus x to the power 4 over x squared when x approaches 0. You factor x squared, 3 plus x squared over x squared. Then you cancel them. It's going to be limit of 3 plus x squared when x approaches 0 is going to be 3 plus 0, which is going to be 3. Next is limit of x over 3x plus x squared when x approaches 0 is going to be again 0 over 0. You factor the denominator. You take out x is going to be 3 plus x. When x approaches 0, you cancel that. It's going to be limit of 3 plus x when x approaches 0. The answer is going to be 3 plus 0, which is going to be 3. Next one is limit of x plus 2 over x squared plus 5x plus 6 when x approaches negative 2. That's going to be 0. 4 minus 10 plus 6 is going to be 0. You factor denominator. X plus 3 times x plus 2 when x approaches negative 2. Now as you see here, x plus 2 and x plus 2 basically they're the same, so we can simplify that. It's going to be limit of 1 over x plus 3, x approaches negative 2, which is going to be 1 over 1, and that's going to be equal to positive 1. Next one is limit of square root of x minus 5 over x minus 25 when x approaches 25. That's going to be square root of 25 minus 5 over 25 minus 25, which is going to be 0 over 0. Then you have difference of squares. These two cancel out. This is going to be limit of 1 over square root of x plus 5 when x approaches 25 is going to be 1 over 10. Next one is limit of m to the power of 4 minus 1 over m cubed minus 1. When you factor that, since it's 0 over 0, you need to factor it. It's going to be m squared minus 1 times m squared plus 1, and m squared minus 1 you can write it as m minus 1 times m plus 1. So it's going to be m minus 1, m plus 1, m squared plus 1 over m cubed minus 1 is going to be m minus 1, m squared plus m plus 1. These two cancel out. Is going to be 2 times 2 over 1 plus 1 plus 1 is going to be 3. 4 over 3. Next one is limit of square root of x squared plus 15 minus 4 over x plus 1 when x approaches negative 1. That will be 4 minus 4 is 0 over 0. So what we need to do, we need to basically this example, I'm gonna make it as x squared plus 15 minus 4 times x squared plus 15 plus 4 over x plus 1. That's different from the other examples in this video. It is basically evaluating limits by finding the conjugate or rationalizing numerator or denominator. In this case, we rationalize the numerator. It means that I multiplied both numerator and denominator by the conjugate of the numerator. So when you multiply them, it's like difference of squares. It's going to be x squared plus 15 minus 16 over x plus 1 x squared plus 15 plus 4. So basically what you can do, you have x squared minus 1 over x plus 1, then x squared plus 15 plus 4, and here x squared minus 1 you can write it as x minus 1 times x plus 1, and x plus 1 cancel out. You have x minus 1 over square root of x squared plus 15 plus 4. So limit will be negative 2 over 1 plus 15 is 16, square root of 16 is 4, 4 plus 4 is going to be 8, so it's going to be negative 1 over 4 is the limit of this example. I will make another video regarding rationalizing a numerator and denominator by multiplying numerator and denominator by the conjugate. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to subscribe this channel. You can have access to many other videos regarding calculus, physics, chemistry, and other topics in math. Thank you for watching and have a great day.